Hi there, and welcome to the Why We Horror podcast. We are covering the original 1980 Friday the 13th movie. Um, my name is Matt, and my favorite Friday the 13th sequel is Friday the 13th 7, The New Blood.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and my favorite Friday the 13th sequel is the fourth one, The Final Chapter.
Hi, my name is Mike, and my favorite Friday the 13th sequel is Friday the 13th Part 2.
Hi, my name is Brad, and my favorite Friday the 13th movie is Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, because I'm from New York.
There you go. We have two very obvious choices in there. 4 and 2 seem to be the hardcore fan favorites, and 7 and 8 are considered some of the worst of the installments of at least the original Paramount lot, so it's kind of funny. Like I said, we are covering the original Friday the 13th from 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, written by Victor Miller with an uncredited rewrite by Ron Kurtz, starring Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Jeannine Taylor, Robbi Morgan, and Kevin Bacon in a very early role. Cinematography by Barry Abrams, with a score by Harry Manfredini. Fantastic score, by the way. With editor Bill Freda, and special effects and makeup by Tom Savini. A brief synopsis of this film before we go into our reviews is camp counselors attempt to reopen a supposedly cursed camp just as a killer is on the prowl to ensure the camp remains closed. This is a film, I'm going to pass it off to you guys, but it's weird that we're covering this one because when you think of Friday the 13th, you think of everything this movie is kind of not, in a weird way. It's dwarfed by its sequels. However, this is my favorite entry in the Friday the 13th series, at least in technical filmmaking, even though it's probably one of the lesser paced and least enjoyable installments. But what did you guys think?
All right, so I watched this with somebody who didn't watch it before. So I got a little taste of seeing a new person see it. Because I thought, it's like a classic, and it is a product of its time. It's not very adventurous, like, it's like one of the first types of this kind of movie, right? So it's not going crazy. My friend goes, "This is the boringest movie I've ever seen in my life," and I was like, "Well, it does get better." So, but they did think the end was scary, and I was like, "Yeah, this is more, what you would expect it to be." So it's a slow burn at the beginning, and then picks up to be more interesting, I think.
I want to jump on that briefly for two reasons. One, this is the only Friday the 13th movie my wife has seen, and she stopped with this one because this one sucked, in her words. And two, it is a slow burn. I think they're doing like the Halloween, the first Halloween movie is a slow burn. It's like a tightening coil that's just waiting to spring, but once it springs, it really, like, it's just nonstop. However, that is a much better made movie, so it makes enduring the middle of the movie a lot easier. But Jordan and Brad, feel free to take over.
So, speaking of Halloween, I feel like this movie helps cement the trope that like sex and drugs lead to death, and I like Halloween started that, but this really like cemented it.
Yeah, absolutely did.
I definitely agree with that. However, I was watching an interview with Sean S. Cunningham and things like that, and he basically wound up saying that, yeah, those tropes exist, but it was all by coincidence. Like everyone there was going to die, no matter what they did. So I found that kind of interesting because yes, it does follow the tropes, but pretty much by accident. But the couple of things that really made this movie, three things that made this movie for me. One is I actually went to sleepaway camp, worked at sleepaway camp. So they resonated with me, and the fears are there. It really, I'll talk about them later, but just to give a general review, it really resonated with me in that way. And the score just added to the dread, and it allowed the slow burn to kind of work, because the music kind of matched that. And then Savini's, he did the Dawn of the Dead, the original George Romero, and just I think they spent like $20,000 alone on like I think it was $500,000 budget. $20,000 of that went to the special effects, and it was money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's strange. You bring up Sean Cunningham, and I'll definitely be touching on him a little bit later, but he's a interesting filmmaker in that he is definitely competent, but he's also kind of a sleaze in a lot of ways. He very much has like the air of like the exploitation filmmaking. He and Wes Craven were partners together on Last House on the Left, and even the first kill in this film is incredibly reminiscent of the wood scene from Last House on the Left. But you can really sense, listening to Sean Cunningham in interviews, the exploitation filmmaker that's still ever present. And there's not much originality in this film. Like the ethos goes that it was, or the myth goes that Halloween performed really well at the box office, and Sean Cunningham called up his partner at the time, Victor Miller, and was like, "We should do that. That made a lot of money," and so they just blatantly ripped it off. But
it goes. They also ripped off Carrie. I mean, they pretty much had the ending written, and then said, "Ooh, Carrie was cool. Let's add the scare at the end." And
the jump scare wasn't originally planned.
Yeah, no, I read that original screenplay. I used the extra days that we were given here. We had a string of bad luck leading to this recording. But
Shocker, Friday the 13th.
I know, right? I used those couple days, and I read the original screenplay, and let me tell you, it's not good. This movie is an infinite improvement over Victor Miller's solo screenplay. Like, Crazy Ralph in the original script served no purpose other than to just show up and have rats hanging out of his mouth. Like he was biting onto rat tails, and he was just like, ah, and he didn't even give like the harbinger warning or anything like that.
He's the prophet of doom in the movie.
Yeah, like, no, he had a purpose in the movie, so much so that he's in the second one.
Yes, he is.
that script is bananas, but it's also just kind of an inverted Psycho, right? Like the entire basis of what the killer is trying to do is just Psycho in reverse. It's a mother who's keeping alive this boy that died, and he's taking her over. I don't know. We'll get into the ending later for sure. That's one of my key talking points. Did everybody like this movie? I'm talking negatively about it, but I actually have quite a fondness for it. How about everybody else?
No, I didn't care for it. I thought, maybe if I watched it like long ago and was like, oh, but everything's been done so much better now. It's hard to like, and the twist at the end is like, I already know who this is, which kind of hurts. So it hurts the movie knowing stuff that you already know and going back, for me at least. I will say though, I think that it's really interesting how all the people get killed, because like it wasn't unrealistic, the actions people were taking in this movie, really, to an extent. Like they're not like running away like, oh, I dropped my keys or whatever. It's like all kind of realistically paced.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. Jordan, do you like this movie?
I do like this movie. Every Friday the 13th, I do try to watch a Friday the 13th movie. That's a tradition that I have. So I have a soft spot for this franchise and for this particular movie. Like, I'm wearing a Camp Crystal Lake t-shirt. So I have always liked like the setting at like a camp. I like Brad said earlier, like thinking about like I grew up going to like Girl Scout camp. So having that like perspective of like being at a camp and being attacked is honestly really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to piggyback off that. So I went to an 8-week sleepaway camp starting. I can't believe this is actually a thing. I was in 4th grade. Literally, it was 1984, and I went to a sleepaway camp. And at that time, like you can just pretty much, and these are isolated camps in the middle of nowhere. You go off the campgrounds, it's pitch black. So the way this camp was set up is there's like a boys' side camp, a lake, and a girls' side camp, which is pretty much a mile away. And the things that we were like they would never happen today. So like there's like an Indian trail. I don't know why they called it an Indian trail, but it was called the Indian Trail. And we went through the woods and walked a mile. And what we would do is we'd raid the girls' camp at like 11 o'clock at night, sneak into the girls' bunk, and just like play spin the bottle, or whatever, like typical things that little kids do. And just like that would just never happen. Like any killer could be in these woods and like slaughter 8, 9, 10 kids, and it could totally happen. So just going back and watching this movie, those fears that you're experiencing as you're like walking through the woods in the middle of the night, unsupervised, they're there. So it resonated with me when I watched it, and just every time I rewatch it, I get memories of like things that I wouldn't remember now, because this is like 40 years ago. And now and every time I watch it, it brings back not only like the scary memories, but also the fond memories of sleepaway camp. So I really loved it.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on one thing. There is kind of like a strange reality that's captured with the first 5 of these movies. To be fair, the first 5 movies are kind of all interchangeable. Like they follow the exact same formula, and you could say each one is the first movie, and like people would believe you. They get more interesting as they go on. However, the quality kind of gets questionable. But I didn't have I don't touch nature, and I try to have nature not touch me. So I've never like been a camp guy. That being said, the couple of times I was in Boy Scouts and stuff like that, and I was in the woods and like we did the campfire thing. This movie does capture that kind of eerie thing that there could be people watching you just beyond the trees. And this movie framing that film, the way they filmed it, is really kind of clever and good. It captures that feeling.
I was gonna say, even when I go camping, I get scared, and like I think of the music, and like growing up, like my dad would like scare us and like say do the music from the movie to like play tricks on us or to scare us.
Right.
I have like an actual scary thing that happened. I had an actual scary thing that happened to me when I was camping, and it's like somebody in the woods type situation, and I can tell that story later if you guys want, but
I absolutely need you to tell that story.
I'll tell it a little bit later when we get to more freeform here.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. The first talking point I wanted to touch on is the inversion of Psycho. The one thing that makes this movie interesting and separates it from pretty much the entire rest of the series, honestly, is the Mrs. Voorhees of it all, and the lengths of a mother's love and the revenge mission that she's going on. It's questionable, but at the same time, I kind of get it. And they do this kind of like, it's framed like a whodunit, right? But it's a frustrating whodunit because you never meet the killer before they turn up. It's like, I know what you did last summer.
She actually wanted to be shown. I heard an interview with her where she said, we should have me in the diner or have me here. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. I don't care.
They couldn't afford her.
What it said.
So
that was basically what it is.
They only had her for a couple days.
But they can have the truck a couple
10
times.
days, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So did anybody want to talk about Mrs. Voorhees and stuff like that?
So my take on it is
Raise
that
your
she
hand.
I love it.
she isn't just a slasher, but she's a grieving parent who has like completely snapped into like a disassociative state, and like it's based on revenge and grief, and I think that's like a really interesting take and like motive to have.
I agree with you. I think, like a lot of things with the movie, it's a little underwritten or underthought. And I think all it would have taken is a couple more passes at a script to like really cement a truly fascinating character. But at the same time, I think she is the most interesting character of the first, like of all the Paramount lot of Friday the 13th films. And it is that like in 10 minutes of screen time, she gives you the motivation of not only her and the entire movie, but essentially what's the driving force of the entire rest of the franchise, this sort of weird revenge mission that Jason continues for reasons. Yeah.
But there's a lot of political undertones to this movie. And it really became a product of its time because you have, you know, the Jimmy Carter administration moving into the Ronald Reagan conservative movement administration.
Yeah.
Like Ronald Reagan was really probably the last true conservative president that we've had. You know, not talking about Donald Trump, but like really true Republican conservative, where conservative values were really starting to take hold in the United States. And what I mean by that is you have conservative values being strict parental controls over the youth, and this was kind of like a reaction to that, where you know the kids, Mrs. Voorhees represented that overbearing parent, whereas and the youth are trying to break free from that. And I thought that was a very interesting, because I'm sure this wasn't intentional. This is all like, because it happened like at the very beginning of that shift into this Republican conservative values. So, but looking back on it, you can really see how, hey, this is where the country is going. You know, let's comment on that. Like, I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but it's a definitely interesting way to look at it.
Well, that's actually kind of one of the reasons why we do this podcast, is to get down to the core of why we tell these stories in the first place. And I think that a lot of times people kind of intend to make art and it's supposed to be seen a certain way. We've covered those movies before on this podcast, but then there are some where, like this one, it's not necessarily like filled with intent. This is a pure cash grab of a film. Like both filmmakers who are in charge of helming this kind of lay claim to that. But at the same time, you're not wrong. Whether they knew it or not, this movie's infused with a lot of different things. And I'm definitely going to touch on one of what I think it all means, that when I told it to my coworkers, Eli and Paris, it broke both of them. So I'll touch on that. I guess I can get into it now. So what I think this all means is if Jason died as a result of a couple having careless sex and Mrs. Voorhees targets couples, can Jason in this film kind of only be read as a weird metaphor for abortion? And like literally you have her being like, killer mommy killer, like this person who died from a careless act of a moment of passion between couples that's kind of governing the mother character to pick off people who are not treating that value of human life in a very conservative way seriously. Again, I'm thinking way more about this than anybody making the movie did.
Well, Matt, you got to remember, I think Roe versus Wade happened like not too in the distant past of that movie. I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years prior. I can't remember the exact date, So these are things that are definitely maybe not at the forefront of their consciousness, but influenced by it on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
I mean, if that makes the movie
is
more
there
fun
a
to
way?
watch, if we do it that way.
Yeah, as I say, it loses its value with the sequel immediately. Like, you can't watch it through that lens with any other installment.
Mhm.
But while I was watching it, that kind of dawned on me.
No, that's a very interesting take.
Yeah. It paints the picture entirely different. I tried watching it another time
You should have told me this
afterwards.
beforehand. Then I'd been like, oh man, the reveal is even better now.
All right. So we talked about how this was essentially just a Halloween knockoff, but engaging his inner grindhouse filmmaking, Sean Cunningham decided to do the one thing Halloween didn't, which was show the kills. And I think it became the thing that all slashers tried to one-up each other with from here on out. Because if you rewatch Halloween, most of the characters kind of just get choked out or killed off screen. There's like 2 shots of blood in the entire movie. This movie shows you everybody's either aftermath of death in pure gory detail and some truly tremendous kills. I still think that Kevin Bacon kill is probably my favorite in the entire franchise.
That's an awesome one.
Yeah,
They only had to edit out 8 minutes. They only had to edit out 8 minutes of this movie to get the R rating.
That's crazy. Yeah. So what did anybody want to talk about that? The fact that, like, even by the time Halloween 2 came out, they were re-editing that one to try and catch up to what Friday the 13th did by actually showing you brutal kills. And like, it seemed to be an ever big one-up between those 2 franchises particularly.
Well, yeah, I mean, they definitely are brutal, but they're not like you can stomach them, which I think it also made it more effective. Like, they weren't over the top, like, except for, I don't know if we're going to, like, the brutal end of Pamela Voorhees, obviously, which I love.
Yeah.
But, they weren't over the top, except for maybe, again, the Kevin Bacon kill. But, you're getting slashed, you're getting stabbed, but other than that, it's not like, like quarts of blood everywhere. So it made it more realistic, and that's, again, credit to Savini, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think that in this specifically, I don't think there's really anything in this movie that made me go, that woman could not have been able to do this by herself.
There's one scene. One scene, and it's the scene where she throws, what is it, Brenda through the window?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm like, that 50-year-old woman could not do that.
Well, how does she hang a body from somewhere? Like, no way a lot of that could have happened.
Yeah.
The time wasn't there. No, just could not have happened. But you gotta.
You don't know how much time it was. It's like one night or whatever. But like, she could have had it like prepped. She had it pre-planned, like Kevin McAllister.
When they originally announced that they were doing a remake of Friday the 13th, I was like, good. Actually, I think I'm on board with that, because the first movie's the most interesting one, at least to me. And all the, like, Jason sequels at a certain point start following hero Jason, and the camera, like, keeps him out of the shadows and has him very much the forefront. You're walking around with him, kind of like in A Violent Nature. And I wanted them to do that with Pamela Voorhees to see how she pulled this movie off, because I think that would have been fascinating. And I hope that Crystal Lake TV show does that.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued what they're going to do with the TV show.
Yeah, Linda Cardellini's playing Pamela Voorhees, and she's a phenomenal actress. So,
is there a premiere date for this yet?
Sometime later this year. There's some pictures and stuff that they've been dropping of, like, sets, but not like anything official yet. It's in the bag, though. I think they finished it.
Gotcha.
So
I think I heard that too. That's why I was hoping it'd be sooner rather than later.
yeah. My guess probably October, because there's a Friday the 13th in October.
That would make sense. We had 2 this year. That would be 3 Friday the 13th this year. We've already had 2.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't think this happens again until like 2037 or something like that.
I'll be dead.
All right.
Me too.
There's a scene early on that I wanted
actually
to discuss, because I was listening to the filmmakers discuss this movie, and there's a scene that's included as foreshadowing that I wanted to highlight, because I think it has it sort of showcases everything wrong with how they made this movie.
Okay.
And it's the scene with the snake in the cabin.
Yeah.
That was put in there supposedly as foreshadowing that there is an unseen threat that's going to be lurking at any given moment and could spring and grab at you and harm you or whatever. But they also wanted to show that these are capable people, and that's why they kill the snake by beheading it and stuff like that. It was to foreshadow that these kids aren't just going to take it, and they're capable of fighting back. The only problem with that is not what happens in this movie. I mean, yes, they do behead her at the end, but Alice isn't the one that kills the snake. It's that random Bill guy, right? So
well, that kind of subverts it, because like somebody that you think would be capable just gets killed, and with no like pomp or circumstance on that. Like, just, oh, there he goes.
Right? Yeah. That's something that just bugged me, because it's like, clearly they put thought into it, but they didn't put enough thought to execute it the way that the movie actually plays out. And that is just the frustrating thing with this movie, because there's a lot to like here, but then there's just things that irk me, and it's highlighted in scenes like that. And on top of that, the like grindhouse filmmaking that the filmmaker was used to, he literally killed that snake on screen, and apparently like the snake handler was crying off on the side of the set.
Yeah. Right, they killed his animal.
So they couldn't put that no animals were harmed on this set. They couldn't put that in there.
This was definitely made in a time before that was. They killed the snake. That was real, and so that's even more like disappointing. Yeah.
That's
can we talk about Ned? Or whatever
What'd you say?
Can we talk about Ned or whatever his name is? That like creep friend.
Are you
like in Native American attire?
The funny guy? Yeah, I actually did want to talk about him.
Guy. Okay, I don't think he was funny, but
no, he said.
Oh, who did the trick that pretended to drown just to kiss the girl?
Yes, the guy that I was like, I hate this guy. I hate him. And
he's supposed to be there as the comic relief. And
well, I was relieved when he died, so that must have been worth it.
I also thought he was annoying.
He's just such a pig, right? He's just the worst.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this actually gets into one of the things that I wanted to talk about. The film seemed to kill people in order of screen readiness and charisma. Like, the main girl that you first meet, Annie, is clearly the most charismatic and camera-ready actor in the movie besides Pamela Voorhees, and she's killed off.
Yeah, she's so excited to go to camp.
Like,
she should have listened to that trucker. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, old man.
Did you ever get in a truck with someone nowadays? It just wouldn't happen.
Let's look at that.
No, I know, right?
Oh, come with me. Yeah, let's go. Get in my truck.
All right.
Yeah, no, not at all. But then the next person that dies is the funny guy, Ned, who
Ned.
He's ready to be on camera. Like, he seems like he's written terribly. Like, this dude's a sleaze, but like, he's probably the second best actor in the movie. And then it's Kevin Bacon, and then the girl who cries about everything. What is it, Marcy or something? they get progressively more boring until they whittle it down to milquetoast Alice, which is like she's not ready for camera. It didn't seem like she had no screen presence whatsoever. The only reason that she is still talked about today is because she's the original final girl from this franchise. And it's kind of sad. I think they should have kind of reversed that to make more, compelling movie along the way. But
I heard they wanted to get Sally Field or Meryl Streep.
That's crazy.
For Carol. That's what I heard.
Could you imagine?
That's what I heard.
What were you saying, Mike?
For me, the Ned kill is like the most important one for me because of how he's like creeping on Marcy and Kevin Bacon, and then he goes into that cabin and nobody knows that he went in there. So like you don't know he's dead until they show the shot. And you think that the blood would drop on the pillow and they would immediately notice this. It doesn't happen for a really long time. So, but then blood is on the pillow. They just don't see it. So it's like a huge chunk. Like you don't even know the killer's there yet.
Yeah, you don't know that the killer's still in the room too, which is great. I think that whole scene is one of the best scenes in the movie. The camera slowly panning up from them making love to his dead body and then cutting back down to them. And then when she kind of goes off to piddle, and he's just lying in bed.
Because she can't.
What was that?
She must be super short because she can't see the top bunk.
She did look short. Yeah, no, that's fair.
See above this thing. Is there somebody up there dripping on me?
And then when the blood hits on him and then the thing goes through his neck is just pitch perfect.
You think
that scene is amazing?
You think she was waiting for that moment the whole time?
How awkward to be her in that situation.
Getting sprung in the face. Those bed springs be getting her, She's got a little arrow. She's like, I better not poke too soon.
Pretty gentle. But yeah, that every time I've rewatched the movie, I think about that the whole time. That I'm like, yeah, she's just there. Like, what is she doing? This is horrible.
Jason, kill him, mommy, kill him. Okay, Jason, settle down. I'm busy.
Did anybody else kind of feel the same way that they were kind of picking off the characters and the people that were dying first? You wanted to have stay longer? Or is that just a me thing?
I like the chef. I was upset that she was killed first.
Right? She's great.
She was fun. Like Jordan said, she was so excited to come to camp. That's probably why they killed her off first. But
yeah,
I to me, she was the best actor out of the group. So it's definitely makes sense.
And then here's the thing. I thought she was too happy, so she had to die first. She just had to. Can't be that happy. Okay. It's against the law.
It is true. You're not allowed to have joy in this franchise.
Or in life, really. Up north where I live, can't be happy. It's against the law. It's like
sad.
It's a law.
I was surprised how early they killed off Kevin Bacon. Just with how big of an actor he is.
I mean, this was still 4 or 6 years away from.
Oh, I guess that's true. He wasn't that
Footloose.
popular back then.
But at the same time, he also seemed to be one of the people that was more camera ready. Like, the camera really likes him. He has amazing hair in this.
And the scene with the cop where he's just casually being a teenager, like a snotty teenager.
Oh, so you mean the motorcycle cop who doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle?
Yeah, the motorcycle cop.
Yeah, it looked like he just learned how to.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did. That had to be real. All right. So Jason lives in this movie. What's going on with that end scene? And we can also talk about Brenda's death, how she's lured out to a little boy screaming, "Help me," in the woods. So what is happening here? Do you guys have any?
Pretending to do the voice. Help me.
Are you talking about
she has the ghost face voice changer? The shock ending, I mean, I suppose is all in her head, and that's what this movie like. If this movie exists in a bubble, and originally they were planning to do Friday the 13th as an anthology series, so the second movie wouldn't have had anything to do with anybody. The then yeah, it was just a dream that Alice had. But with the notion that the sequels exist, is Jason alive here, or like what's the continuity is like crazy in this franchise.
I'm gonna say he's not alive.
Around in the lake. And he ages 50 years.
I'm gonna say he's not alive. I can't hear him right.
Second movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I started thinking about it like as I was watching it, my mind started to wander, and I was like, if I were to sit down and reboot this, I would tap into Jason Goes to Hell a little bit, where you see like the Book of the Dead. It doesn't have to be the actual Necronomicon, but like some book of magic or something like that, where this grieving mother finds this and discovers there's a spell to revive, and you need to like claim 13 souls or something like that, and that's why she goes back to this camp to where her son died to kill these people, and so she's killed 12. She needs that 13th death, but the tragedy is she's the 13th death that raises Jason. And
that's a good story.
That's what I would do if I were remaking it.
That's a good story, man. I'd watch that movie.
Yeah. As I say, my mind started wandering, and I started writing better movies.
Write that movie, dude. That's a really good movie. But it's fun. So you were talking about an anthology series. They made a Friday the 13th TV series that were independent stories, just like a Tales from the Dark Side type of. I think they did. Am I right? Am I mixing two?
Yeah, no, they did.
My memory could be.
There's like 3 seasons of it or something like that. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel when I was growing up. Yeah.
Well, whatever. I'll figure. I could be confusing Tales from the Dark Side, but I'm
no,
pretty sure
you're right.
There
is a Friday the 13th series.
Just like creepy stories each week, right?
Yeah, both this one and Freddy's Nightmares. That one at least had like Robert Englund hosting each episode, but almost none of them actually had Freddy like as the main protagonist or antagonist. The Friday the 13th, I think, don't have any connection outside of the name only. But I watched several episodes back in the day, and it was pretty decent. It wasn't as good as the 80s Twilight Zone, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what did you think? What's going on with Brenda's death, where she's lured out with little boy Jason? Like, that scene is super weird because she's the only one that hears like this little boy, and then at the end of the movie when Pamela's doing her like killer mommy, where the k mama comes from, like it's her voice. So what is happening in Brenda's scene? That's just super weird. I hope I have that name right.
I think it's Brenda. Yeah,
it is Brenda.
Well, so if we go by the ending, is Water Jason just sitting in the lake whispering? Like,
she and like Jason and his mom are just like at the different parts of the like camp at different times. They just keep missing each other.
But he's like, he's actually there, and she's just cuckoo and like showing up to kill these kids, but doesn't realize that he's there still. Just keeps missing them.
Yeah.
Or she's like whispering in the boy voice, and it was just to like to make it seem like it wasn't that lady when she shows up later, like just kind of.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Mike's. I think it was just her doing a young child's voice to lure her out there.
Yeah,
I don't think it's supposed to be Jason or whatever.
No, I think when you get to the end of the movie, you're supposed to assume it's Mrs. Voorhees that was making that voice, but then they just cast a woman with like a deep smoker's voice, and so it just doesn't play.
Maybe she's just a really good voice actress. You know, she can just do like an Ash Ketchum voice or something. You know,
I love it.
She's very talented, talented actress, obviously.
Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to talk about for this movie? It's a weird movie where there's like a lot going on, but also kind of nothing really at the same time.
I like the fact that like
I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead, Mike, and then we'll have Brian.
Oh, go ahead. I couldn't hear Mike. I'm sorry, buddy.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
So everybody that dies in this dies in a way that like, okay, it makes sense that other people aren't noticing them. And that's like, I think a big point of this movie being good for me. Like what I like about it is like, this person dies, nobody notices because it's never happening like at the same time as something else where somebody would go into that room and notice that person was dead until it's like, now you're going to die, so it doesn't matter. Like everybody's separated in a reasonable spaces.
No, I dig that. And it does seem like there is a realistic quality to the like complete empty space that camp is, to get the people isolated enough where you believe that they wouldn't hear the screams and stuff like that, and that you could just happen upon these bodies, as Alice does in the back half of the film.
And then the second thing was the Jeep coming back. Like if you pay attention, it's the same Jeep. And then it's like, so this is clearly the killer. But if you're not really paying attention, you wouldn't even like tie it together. But it's like,
yeah, and
up, what's her face at the beginning?
Yeah, she and Steve Christie have the same Jeep, but Steve's Jeep has like a back like tarp thing. And I think this movie suffers from like weird editing. If you read the screenplay, all the stuff with Annie happens it would have been like the first 20 minutes, and then you see everything at the camp. The rest of the people meeting up at the camp afterwards. So you could get the suggestion that maybe Steve was the one that picked her up and killed her on the way to the camp. And then he leaves the camp shortly thereafter once everybody's arrived. And so the mystery of like, is he maybe the killer would have played. However, the way it's cut now, that doesn't read at all. I think they still try to make that happen. As I say, there's an attempt at a whodunit. It's just not edited together in a way that would work. And also, who does it is never mentioned or seen before.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. So to prep for this, I when I was in college, I read I did a class on like violence in the media and all that kind of stuff, and we had to read excerpts from Carol J. Clover's book, who introduced the whole tropes of the final girl and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I liked how they talked about how Pamela Voorhees is kind of like flipped version of the male. How they kind of dressed her as a masculine, like wearing there's really no feminine qualities to her. You know, the short hair, the way she dressed like a man and carrying the phallic weapon. So I kind of like how they did that. They kind of flipped that on its head and made it their own. Again, I don't think it was intentional, but it was cool.
I think you saw that a lot, especially in the 80s. Like, I know that as much as we praise like James Cameron's and his works, one of the biggest criticisms that Aliens receives is that you have a relatively sexualized Ripley in the first Alien. By the second one, she is not sexualized at all, and there's no discerning qualities visually to her that separate her from the Marines around her. Like, she also has the short hair, and she's suited up in like a not a military outfit, but something similar. And you saw that quality happen a lot with female characters, especially mothers, when they're put into a situation where they have to play like a traditional male hero kind of role or a masculine kind of role. And I think that's something that eventually has been shied away from. I think even by Terminator 2, you still allow a certain level of femininity to Sarah Connor, even as she becomes her own kind of Terminator throughout that movie.
I just rewatched that last week.
T2?
Terminator 2.
It's super
Love
good.
it. Yeah.
It's a little better than Friday the 13th.
I would
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to touch on? I do think the gender politics of the Friday the 13th franchise are kind of an interesting thing, yet this one is probably the least interesting in the sense that you have a female. It's most interesting in the sense that you have a female killer, which is something different than pretty much anything else in the genre at the time. But the criticisms hurled at this franchise specifically, especially by like Siskel and Ebert and the media at large, was that the Friday the 13th franchise hates women. And I think there's definitely truth to that, depending on the installment that you're watching. I think the second one has like the final girl get degraded to the point where she literally pisses her pants. And I find that like pretty revolting, and she's considered to be like the best of the final girls of the franchise. And I think the fifth one is also pretty egregious towards its depiction of women. But then the third one, which is considered a not particularly strong entry in the franchise, though it's one of my favorites, I think the women in that one are actually treated pretty strongly. It's co-written by a woman who would go on to be like Quentin Tarantino's script supervisor for most, if not all, of his movies. But yeah, it's, where do you guys land on that? Do you think this franchise hates women? You can't really see it from this film, but
no.
Sadly, I feel like most horror movies like will sexualize women, and like they do treat them poorly. So I understand where that point of view is coming from.
Yeah. Mike, Brad, you have anything you want to say?
Well, I think
they're a product of their time.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
For sure.
The same thing you said, Brad.
Wait, Mike, what did you just say?
The same thing you said.
That's funny. I'm not, and that's not making an excuse. I mean, for the fact that they sexualize women and things like that. But unfortunately, in the '80s, that's growing up during that time, that's how it was. And not saying it's good or bad. Bad it is, but
I think
it's
the criticism
unfortunate.
is perfectly valid, and I think that criticism was ever present and loud in the '80s because there was a lot of movies that were not particularly kind to the depiction of women, especially in the slasher genre. And I think that you got that a lot from the critical community, because at the time, a lot of film critics were hyper educated and would be more likely to notice sort of like gender disparities and how people were presented on camera. So it was much louder than we hear necessarily now, because I think the landscape of film criticism has been muted quite a bit, ironically, by Siskel and Ebert making it into a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of binary, or leading that direction so that anybody can kind of be an armchair critic. And also
I like how
progressed. What were you going to say, Brad?
I like how they can turn Monopoly. I like how they can turn Monopoly into a sexualized version of Monopoly.
I thought that was really fun too.
Your Monopoly.
Like
and then Friends piggybacked off that with Strip Happy Days game.
Put the clothes back on.
What did you say, Mike?
She goes outside with the raincoat, but doesn't put her clothes on.
Yeah.
First, like, you're not in a rush.
Yeah.
No, I didn't even think of that. You're absolutely right. No, I thought that there's some like moments like that in this film that I think are really authentic and real, and the like, I don't know, let's just play strip Monopoly, and the like, sure, I like, nobody's around me, I'll just put on this raincoat and venture off to look for this lost boy.
Yeah, of course. That's literally what I do all the time.
All right. So for some
story.
Oh yeah, I want to hear this story. Let's hear this story before we move into the fun facts.
Okay, so I used to go camping a lot when I was younger, maybe 14 or 15 years old. Me and my friend Cody, we'd go out in the woods at like midnight, and we just had like no flashlight. We would just go by the moonlight and walk these trails, and we just would walk. So this night we had a flashlight with us, but we wouldn't have it on. We'd walk this trail, and we go, I think we should go farther, past the gate, and like into the woods even farther. That would be super fun today. And we're walking down there, and we're about half a mile away from our campsite, okay? Like pretty far in the woods. And we hear rustling behind us. And we hear... And we're like, what the fuck is that? So we turn around, and there's nothing there, okay? Like, we're just like, whatever. So we just keep walking, like, oh, it's like an animal or something being weird. And so we're walking forward, still didn't turn the flashlight on. We hear it again, but now it's louder. And more rustling, like faster, like something's coming towards us. So we whip around and turn the flashlight on. There is a woman crawling out of the woods, mumbling and like crawling like a spider at us, as like fast as possible. And we're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and she immediately like jumps up in the air, sticks straight, and goes, I can't find my campsite. And we're like, thank God. I don't know what would happen if she did not talk English and just kept crawling at us. I don't know. She's just whispering at us and crawling at high speed. So we're deep into the woods on uncharted territory, and there's a woman in the woods. And we're like, okay, where's your campsite? She's like, a campsite 42. This lady is zooted, okay? She's like, who knows what she's taking, but she does not know what planet she's on.
I vote mushrooms.
Probably.
I vote mushrooms.
Probably. Walk her back to her campsite. Campsite 42, she says. We're like 10 minutes away from the campground, okay? We get her there. She goes, this isn't my campsite, and grabs me by the arm, like strongly. And he's like, this isn't my campsite! She's like, gonna kill me, basically, screaming. Luckily, somebody in the campsite goes, Susan! And she goes, oh! And then just lets go of me and walks away. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So that's the crazy story that happened to me in the woods. And so that's why this movie isn't that scary, because I mean, an actual crazy woman attacked me in the woods. So, yeah.
So that experience that you had is the perfect inciting incident that you need to film.
Well, I wish I had a cameraman at the time. It could have been perfect. I could redo it. We could redo this live action, like a reenactment.
I love it. It's amazing. I'm sorry that you went through that, but your trauma
honestly
was for our gain.
I don't know what we would have did if she just kept crawling. But she's still like way less scary. But man, like whispering and crawling and just rustling through the woods really fast in the dark.
Just instantly voided yourself.
What would have happened? Because that's the best way to escape a attacker, is just to shit your pants. So
probably true.
That's
what they don't show you on
Mike, did I
Evil
give you
Dead.
that chair?
You did, yeah.
Mike, did I give you that chair?
This is your chair, Brad.
That's my chair. You still have it.
I do, yeah.
I'm like, that looks familiar. That was 10 years ago.
Oh, don't say
That's
that.
crazy. All right, so some fun facts. We've touched on some of them here. This movie was made for $550,000 and ended up making $59.8 million worldwide, which is why they made a dozen sequels in incredibly quick succession. In the 80s alone, there were 8 installments of this franchise, which is crazy. Tom Savini regretted creating Jason with that jump scare at the end, and agreed to board Friday the 13th, the final chapter, only because he was definitively going to kill Jason for good. It also had like 7 sequels. But that ending was not in the original script. That was something that he suggested, as Brad said. And I think that jump scare is insanely effective. And like the musical accompaniment that like leads into it is just beautiful. The music's swelling, it's triumphant, and it goes on just long enough for you to think maybe there is nothing that's going to happen until the pop out.
The cops, with the cops there,
Yeah.
like total, like, no, nothing's gonna happen. She's safe.
Like, as great as that Carrie jump scare is, this jump scare ending is legit the best I think I've seen in any horror movie for like the jump scare finale. Let's see. This was filmed at Camp Novi Bosco in Blairstown, New Jersey, which is still functioning to this day. The film is rumored to have been inspired by a real-life series of murders. The Lake Bodom in Espoo, Finland murders of June 5th, 1960, where 4 campers were all attacked, 3 of which were brutally murdered, and to this day remains unsolved. And although everybody compares this to Halloween, and it definitely follows an incredibly similar structure to Halloween, just instead of in suburban, where's that take place? Ohio, Illinois, something like that. Haddonfield, Illinois. It takes place in like cabins in the woods. Victor Miller actually ripped off And Then There Were None, the Agatha Christie mystery. Both films feature 10 people in isolated locations who get killed in quick succession, leading to the final girl facing off with the killer. And that's supposedly where he got the actual inspiration for this film. We touched on the Siskel and Ebert of it all. Gene Siskel hated this film so much that he gave away the film's ending in his printed review, and then later published Betsy Palmer's home address in order to encourage shame mail. The problem was he printed the wrong address, so she never received any of it. So some other poor bastard got all this hate mail because this dickhead, like,
Doxer.
that's like original doxing. How effed up is that?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's actually crazy. That's insane.
Like,
good thing that
I
like
can't-
nobody reads the newspaper or whatever.
This isn't the first podcast I've touched on where Gene Siskel specifically did something like that. For Christmas, I did a Silent Night, Deadly Night podcast, and both. That's a fun episode. But both Siskel and Ebert really hated that movie. But Siskel like called out the names of all the individual filmmakers and brought shame upon them for making a movie so degrading as that. It's crazy. All right, my last piece of trivia for you is the associate producer of this film, Steve Miner, went on to direct Friday the 13th, Part 2 and Part 3D, a personal favorite of mine, as well as my favorite Halloween film, Halloween H2O, 20 years later, which is pretty cool. And he's still directing to this day, a lot of television, but he's still doing it.
Anyone here actually see Part 3 in 3D?
I have. Yes. It
With the red and blue 3D glasses?
Yes.
It plays so much better in 3D. Like, the 3D isn't particularly good, but there's just a charm to it when you're wearing the dinky glasses. Yeah.
It reminds me like Jaws 3. You have to see it in 3D to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's just a bad theme park movie. But in 3D, it's cool.
I haven't
Same
seen
thing
that
with-
one in 3D. Jaws 3D,
But you
that's
gotta
my
come
least
over. I have
favorite.
it, dude. I have it in 3D.
That's my least favorite Jaws movie. That one would be a hard sell.
It's your favorite 3D one, though. So
Fair enough. All right, so is this movie good? Let's give our star rating. How many slaughtered camp counselors out of 5? We're going to do letterboxd rules. How many slaughtered camp counselors out of 5 are you giving this movie? I give it 3 out of 5 slaughtered camp counselors. I think that the movie has a very unique charm, especially if you grew up in the VHS era, where this was like a go-to rental. I think it has good filmic technique and an incredible score. I think that's easily the best thing about it. I think it's relatively well shot and has a great final 10 minutes. It's kind of a slog to get there at times, but I stand by that it's a solid entry and probably, admittedly, my favorite of the Friday the 13th films. But I'm not a huge fan. Let's move on to Jordan. How many slaughtered camp counselors are you giving it?
I think I would also give it 3. I think it's a classic slasher. There's very fun kills throughout this movie. And I agree with you. I think the score, it's a famous score. And I don't know, I think having like the killer, like it's just a different, I mentioned this earlier, it's a different kind of motive. It was unexpected, like the twist when I first saw it for the first time. I just thought that was really unique.
That's fair. Before we move on to the other two, the ending of this was spoiled for me by the first Scream. I saw that well before I saw this. But it didn't mute or neuter the conclusion for me, which it sounds like it kind of did for Mike. It kind of amplified it for me because I was kind of anticipating it. And so when you get to those last 15 minutes or so, it played really well for me. I like her character a lot. But Mike, how many slaughtered camp counselors do you give it?
So although I don't really like this movie, I'm still giving it a 3 because of the fact that it's just because now I've seen so many movies, but like at the time, if I appreciated it at the time when it came out, like it definitely would have been a great movie for me then. And like if I didn't know the ending, like not knowing that Mrs. Voorhees was like Jason's mom would have been amazing to me. Like because it's like, oh, like what an interesting thing to happen. So I'm gonna give it 3 because I still think people should see it. I just not my favorite movie.
That's fair. And Brad, how many are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it 3, but I'm also throwing in a torso for the nostalgia it brings back for my experience at sleepaway camps. So 3 and a torso.
That's fair. Yeah, it's weird because this is like when you think of this franchise, Jason is the thing that comes up, and he is the one thing that's kind of void from the movie, even though he's the catalyst that is this movie. It is kind of a strange thing, but I think the second movie, which I absolutely abhor, but that's a me thing. You'll find that the entries that people despise of this franchise are the ones I typically kind of like, and the entries that people adore, I traditionally really very much don't. I think that the second movie kind of nailed perfectly what this franchise which like needed to be, and I think it did so. I think that movie is better directed and better paced, and so when people say they love the second one, I get it on that sense. It's actually scary too. I think this one isn't super scary. The second one actually is. And yeah, you guys can talk a little bit briefly about what you think of the sequels and stuff like that. Do you have anything you want to say there?
I like that it introduced a lot of actors that, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but you have Kevin Bacon, then you also have Corey Feldman, who grew out of these movies. So it was kind of cool. I liked how Corey Feldman was in these kind of Brad. He's usually known for comedy and serious drama and Stand By Me. And then here you have as a little kid in a horror movie. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why the fourth one is my favorite, is because of Corey Feldman.
Is it Corey Feldman?
Corey Feldman and Crispin Glover in that fourth one are like untamable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch on the sequels of it all, because like this franchise is an incredibly important franchise to the like mythology of horror cinema, and yet it's definitely not because of this movie. I think if the second movie didn't exist, people would forget this movie kind of existed, full stop. Yeah, outside of the surprise Betsy Palmer ending.
Sorry,
what were you gonna say?
I want to share what my favorite kill in any of these movies are, and why. And one of the reasons why Jason Takes Manhattan is my favorite installment. Just the scene where with the boxer and they're on the roof and the boxer is just like really letting Jason have it, and then one punch punches his head off. It was just the best. I thought that was I loved it.
That was actually the first Friday movie I saw, was the 8th one, and I saw it because it was playing like the weekend after I watched the first Scream, and I was like, oh, I loved Scream. Let me check this out, and I was not in love with it, but that scene specifically, I remember the first time I watched that scene, and the fact that the dude's head flies off and lands in the dumpster like he scored a goal is just peak cinema.
I also think it's the only one I saw in the movie theater. I can't remember seeing any of the others, but that one I did.
What were you saying, Mike?
Watching this first one and then immediately watching that one, and like how jarring like the transition would be. Like
this franchise is really weird for that, because like you can watch the first 5 and like they all kind of feel pretty similar. They're scrappy filmmaking and whatnot, like kind of guerrilla style. They're low budget, but they don't feel super low budget because they're like reaching within their means and are able to execute. When you get to the like glossier last 3 of the Paramount ones, 6, 7, 8, like the camera's a little glossier, the actors are a little more polished, and then you get to the bananas like Jason Goes to Hell and fucking like Jason X, which I reviewed at the day that this is launching. I will also have a review for Jason X, so you can watch my review for that film as well if you're interested. Like, just imagine watching the first movie next to like Seven or Jason Takes Manhattan or Jason Goes to Hell, where he's like body hopping worm, like, or like by the time you get to space, it's like, how did we get here? Who allowed this to happen?
Jason X was my first movie of the franchise.
I thought you meant like ever. I was like sad.
That's the first one I've ever seen in my life, and I said I need to get more of these.
Jason X.
No, Jason X was the first one of the franchise, and I was like, "This is kind of awesome, man." Space.
I promise you that movie does not hold up.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't.
Upon rewatch, I was like, my God, this looks like it's funny. I compare this in my review. It feels like a sci-fi original film. It has a $14 million budget somehow. But it feels exactly like a movie that would have come out canonically like a year later, called Terminal Invasion. And I started making that connection while I was watching that movie, and then I decided to look up Terminal Invasion. It's a Bruce Campbell sci-fi original from like 2002. And it turns out that movie's directed by Sean Cunningham, who directed this movie. And I was like, this is too perfect.
I gotta watch that. My boy Bruce Campbell's in it?
Yeah. Gotta give that man some love. He just had some rough news. He's got like an incurable cancer, he announced, but it's treatable. No. And he thinks that he's got several more years left in him, but his cancer will never be curable. Didn't say what kind it is, but super sad about that. So we should end on a less dour note. Does anybody else have something else they want to say?
I was gonna say one of my favorites is Freddy versus Jason. What do you guys think of that one?
So I'm a Freddy guy, like hardcore, and the fact that is a very pro Freddy movie. It's kind of Jason kind of looks like a dunce throughout most of it. So I really like Freddy versus Jason.
I agree. Any movie where Freddy Krueger is smoking some weed, we're in good shape.
That's right. He's like got that. He's like that worm with a bong.
The worm. He's over weed smoking worm.
I love worms.
Yeah, no, that movie's cool. And then the second one, like I've read the treatment for it, and they turned it into a comic book, and I have it like somewhere over here.
Oh, no way.
It was supposed to be Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and it was very much more of a Jason-centric story. Like Freddy was still like the super villain of it all, but Jason took far more center stage, and it was a good companion piece to Army of Darkness as well. It was a good treatment. It was a pretty good, now super rare comic book to find. So, yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate having everybody here. I thought you all brought like great input to what you love and everything else about this movie. The next time the Why We Horror podcast meets, we are going to be discussing Scream 2. So you can look for that sometime in April, probably around April 15th, which is the anniversary of when Scream 4 came out. But thanks for watching, and thank you all so much for joining me today. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.
Bye, Jordan. Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Peace.
Oh, yeah, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff.